Have you ever felt trapped by your own thoughts? Like your mind is stuck in a relentless loop of worry, fear, and what-ifs? This experience is incredibly common for those who struggle with anxiety. It can feel as though your brain is fundamentally wired for distress, making peace seem like an impossible goal. What if you could fundamentally rewire your anxious brain, creating new pathways that lead to calm instead of chaos? This is not a far-fetched dream. It is a scientifically proven reality through cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. CBT offers a practical roadmap to reshape the thought patterns that fuel your anxiety. You have the power to change your brain, and I am here to show you how to begin that incredible process. CBT is grounded in decades of scientific research and clinical success. It teaches us that our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are deeply connected. By learning to spot and challenge negative thought patterns, we can break the cycle of anxiety and build healthier habits. This is a skill anyone can learn, with practice and support. In cognitive behavioral therapy, our thoughts shape our feelings. It's not events themselves, but how we interpret them that creates our emotions. By noticing and challenging our automatic thoughts, we can change how we feel. CBT empowers us to manage our minds rather than letting our minds manage us. The CBT triangle is a simple map of your mind. Thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, all deeply connected. A thought sparks a feeling, which drives your actions, each one influencing the others. By changing your thoughts or behaviors, you can break the cycle and create healthier patterns. Over time and with repetition, the anxious thought-feeling-behavior loop becomes more than just a conscious process. It becomes an automatic, deeply ingrained habit. This is where the idea of a hijacked brain comes into play. Your brain, in its effort to protect you from perceived threats, creates mental shortcuts. When a situation arises that even remotely resembles a past trigger, your brain doesn't waste time analyzing it with logic. Instead, it activates the well-established anxiety pathway, unleashing a cascade of worried thoughts, fearful emotions, and defensive behaviors almost instantaneously. It's a survival mechanism that has gone into overdrive in the modern world. Think of these anxious pathways as deep grooves carved into your neural landscape. The more you travel down them, the deeper and more defined they become, making it easier for your thoughts to fall into the same old ruts. This is why anxious reactions can feel so powerful and out of your control. The logical, rational part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, gets bypassed in favor of the emotional, reactive part, the amygdala. Your brain is essentially shouting, "Danger," before you have even had a chance to assess whether a real threat exists. This is the system working as it was designed, but on faulty information from distorted thoughts. This hijacking process explains why anxiety can feel so persistent and why it often seems to latch onto everything. A single distorted core belief, such as "I am not good enough," can branch out and color your perception of countless situations, from your career and relationships to simple daily interactions. Every time a situation triggers this core belief, the anxious loop is activated, reinforcing the belief and strengthening its hold on you. The anxiety becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You expect to feel anxious, so your brain dutifully follows the script it knows best, creating the very experience you were dreading. Cognitive behavioral therapy provides the tools to stop this hijacking process in its tracks. It is designed to bring the logical part of your brain back online, even in the face of intense emotion. By teaching you to slow down, identify the automatic thought, and consciously evaluate it, you are essentially building a new road in your brain. At first, this new path will be small and require a lot of effort to take. The old anxious highway will still be the default route. But with consistent practice, repetition, and patience, you begin to pave the new pathway, making it wider, smoother, and easier to travel. Over time, this new balanced way of thinking becomes the new automatic habit. Every anxiety loop begins with a trigger, maybe a vague text or a sudden memory. For an anxious mind, even neutral events can spark alarm. The brain instantly interprets ambiguity as threat, launching the anxiety loop. A simple message like "we need to talk" becomes a trigger for worst-case thoughts and fear. This rapid reaction is the first step in the cycle of anxiety. An anxious thought triggers a powerful feeling, which then drives your actions, like frantic texting or avoiding your phone. These behaviors, whether desperate or avoidant, keep the anxiety alive, creating a self-sustaining spiral. The more you act on fear, the more your thoughts, feelings, and actions feed each other, pulling you deeper into distress. Every time you complete an anxiety loop, you train your brain to connect a trigger with fear and defensive behavior. This path becomes automatic, making anxiety feel unbreakable. But you can interrupt the cycle by questioning your thoughts and choosing a new response. You build a healthier path forward. The first step in using cognitive behavioral therapy to interrupt anxiety is learning to notice your automatic thoughts. These thoughts often go unnoticed, but CBT helps you catch and examine them. You learn to spot common cognitive distortions, like catastrophizing or black and white thinking, and label them. This creates distance from your thoughts, helping you break the anxiety cycle and regain control. When you notice an anxious thought, don't just accept it, question it. Ask, what's the evidence for and against this? Consider alternative explanations. Is this thought helping me or just making me feel worse? By gently challenging your thoughts, you introduce balance and perspective, breaking the cycle of anxiety before it takes over. The final step in breaking the anxiety cycle is creating a new, balanced thought to replace the old, distorted one. This isn't about unrealistic positivity. It's about crafting a thought grounded in the evidence you've gathered. For example, after challenging the thought, "I'm going to be fired," a balanced alternative might be, "I made a mistake, and I feel anxious, but my job isn't in danger." Mistakes are opportunities to learn. Notice how this new thought validates your feelings, acknowledges reality, and points toward constructive action. Repetition is key. At first, your brain will want to revert to old anxious patterns, but that's normal. Each time you catch, challenge, and replace a distorted thought, you strengthen a new neural pathway. Over time, these balanced thoughts become more automatic, and anxious thoughts lose their grip. This is neuroplasticity in action. Your brain literally rewires itself. The new balanced pathway becomes your default, and the old anxious loop fades. CBT doesn't just manage symptoms, it changes the cognitive habits that create anxiety. With practice, you gain a lifelong skill for mental well-being. You're not just coping, you're transforming how your mind responds to stress. This is the heart of cognitive restructuring. One of the most practical CBT tools is the thought record, a structured journal for understanding and changing anxious thoughts. It helps you slow down, separate thoughts from feelings, and observe your mind with clarity. A thought record guides you through, describing the situation, writing your automatic thoughts, and identifying your emotions. Next, you spot cognitive distortions, like catastrophizing or mind reading. Then, you gather evidence for and against your anxious thought, forcing a more balanced perspective. Finally, you create a new realistic thought based on the evidence. Re-rate your emotions. Usually, anxiety drops. Using thought records consistently trains your brain to question anxious thoughts automatically. Over time, this skill becomes second nature. It's like a mental gym. Each entry builds resilience. Whenever anxiety strikes, you have a reliable method to regain control. The thought record is your personal lab for lasting change. Socratic questioning is the engine behind challenging anxious thoughts. Instead of accepting negative thoughts as facts, you learn to question them with curiosity. Ask, what's the evidence for this thought? Is there evidence against it? Challenge certainty. Am I treating a possibility as a certainty? Explore alternatives. Is there another way to see this? What would a friend say? Consider consequences. Does believing this thought help or harm me? What if I let it go? This gentle, curious approach reveals flaws in your thinking and opens space for more balanced conclusions. Socratic questioning isn't about self-criticism, it's about compassionate self-inquiry. With practice, you become your own wise guide, dismantling anxiety with insight. Cognitive restructuring is the heart of CBT, identifying, challenging, and changing unhelpful thoughts. After using a thought record and Socratic questioning, you build a new, healthier thought. The new thought must be believable and based on evidence, not unrealistic optimism. For example, I'm nervous about this presentation, but I prepared and can do a good job. Even if it's not perfect, I won't get fired. This reframes anxiety in a realistic, encouraging light. Cognitive restructuring lets you rewrite your story, editing out old themes of danger and helplessness. Each time you do this, you give your brain a new script, leading to calm and confidence. With repetition, new neural pathways form, and balanced thinking becomes your default. The old anxious patterns fade as the new path strengthens. This is neuroplasticity. You're not just coping, you're changing your brain. Cognitive restructuring empowers you to become the author of your own mental narrative. You build resilience, not just relief. This is how lasting change happens. Sometimes, the best way to challenge anxious beliefs is to test them in real life. This is the behavioral side of CBT. Behavioral experiments treat anxious thoughts as hypotheses to be tested, not facts. For example, if you fear speaking up in a meeting, design a small experiment. Share one idea and observe what happens. Make a prediction, run the experiment, and compare the outcome to your expectation. Often, you'll find your worst fears don't come true. Start small. Attend a social event for 15 minutes just to observe your anxiety. Record what actually happens, not just what you fear. Reflect on the results. Even though I felt anxious, I handled it and nothing terrible happened. Each experiment gives your brain real evidence that anxiety is tolerable and not dangerous. This builds confidence and dismantles avoidance. Behavioral experiments turn theory into lived experience. Step by step, you prove to yourself that you're more resilient than your anxiety suggests. For specific anxieties like social anxiety or OCD, exposure and response prevention (ERP) is a powerful tool. The idea: gradually face your fears until they lose their power. Create a fear hierarchy, starting with mildly scary situations and working up. Repeatedly face each step until anxiety fades. This is habituation. As you move up the ladder, you teach your brain that these situations aren't dangerous. Crucially, resist your usual safety behaviors. Let the anxiety rise and fall on its own. This breaks the link between triggers and compulsions. ERP is challenging, but it's how you reclaim your life from fear, one step at a time. With each exposure, you build courage and freedom. None of these CBT techniques are a one-time fix. They are skills, and like any skill, they require consistent practice to become effective and automatic. The principle that makes all of this work is neuroplasticity, the brain's remarkable ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. Every time you catch and challenge a distorted thought, every time you face a feared situation, and every time you choose a balanced response, you are actively participating in the rewiring of your brain. You are carving new pathways that lead to calm, clarity, and confidence, while the old pathways of anxiety begin to weaken from disuse. Think of it like forging a new path through a dense forest. The first few times you try to walk it, the journey is difficult. You have to push through branches, watch your step, and move slowly and deliberately. The old, well-worn path of anxiety is right there, and it's tempting to slip back onto it because it's easy and familiar. This is why the initial stages of practicing CBT can feel so effortful. You are consciously fighting against years of ingrained mental habits. It requires patience, commitment, and honestly, a great deal of self-compassion when you stumble. However, with repetition, everything changes. Each time you walk the new path, you tread down the grass a little more. You break a few more branches. The trail becomes clearer, wider, and easier to navigate. The more you use it, the more defined it becomes. Eventually, after consistent practice, this new path becomes the main road. It becomes your new default. The balanced, rational thoughts start to come more automatically. Tolerating discomfort becomes second nature. The old, anxious path, now unused, slowly becomes overgrown and disappears back into the forest. This is why repetition is the master key to lasting change in CBT. It's not enough to understand these concepts intellectually. You must apply them consistently in your daily life. Keep a thought record, question your beliefs, and take small, brave steps. Each repetition is a vote for a new way of being. It's a signal to your brain that you are choosing a new response. Over time, these small, consistent efforts compound into a profound transformation. Your anxious brain is not broken or permanently damaged. It is simply waiting for you to teach it a new habit, and with repetition, you can make peace and calm your new automatic response. Your anxious brain isn't broken, it's just stuck. Caught in old patterns, it learned to protect you, but now those habits hold you back. CBT gives you the tools to break free, showing how thoughts, feelings, and actions connect. With practice, you can create new, healthier pathways. You're not just managing anxiety, you're teaching your brain that peace is possible. The journey away from anxiety begins with a single, manageable step. You don't have to solve everything at once, just choose to try. Believe that change is possible and treat yourself with kindness along the way. Every effort, no matter how small, helps your brain learn peace. The path is waiting. Take that first courageous step forward.